Is Georgia going to have a legitimate quarterback competition this offseason, this spring? Spring football is a week away, and Gunnar Stockton is the, assumed QB1 for the Georgia Bulldogs. He went in there for Carson Beck after Beck got hurt last season in the SEC Championship. Carson Beck, the QB1 for Georgia the last couple of years. Gunnar Stockton was the QB2 for the Dogs a year ago. But there's buzz around Ryan Puglisi right now. He's making some headlines. He's got a cannon of an arm. We don't know as much about Ryan Puglisi as we do about Gunnar Stockton because now we've seen Gunnar Stockton on a big stage. We've seen him. His only opportunities at Georgia so far have been in garbage time here and there, and then in huge games. Orange Bowl, SEC Championship, Sugar Bowl / college football playoff game. So we've seen it, and we've seen it work in some moments, and we've seen it not work in other moments. But what history tells us about the Georgia quarterback job is that it's won in practice. That's what Kirby tells us over and over again. And two is that it's never quite set. It was never quite set in 2021 when you're going back and forth between Stetson and JT Daniels. It was definitely not set in 2020 when you thought it was going to be Jamie Newman in the offseason. Carson Beck was maybe going to have a chance. They started out with DeJuan Mathis up there against Arkansas. It ends up being Stetson Bennett and then ends up being JT Daniels. So it's been all over the place. It's between Ryan Puglisi and Gunnar Stockton this offseason. Now, that's working under the assumption that Kirby's not just handing the keys over to Gunnar Stockton and going with that progression. Very well, myself, other media members, other fans, right? We could be wrong, and there might not be an actual quarterback competition, but the history tells us that there is. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post, our newsletter is down below. Make sure you're checking that out. I think this conversation's fun. I talked to Ryan Puglisi down at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, Sugar Bowl Media Days. It's one of those times that you get to pretty much talk to whoever you want within the program as long as they're willing to talk to you. Ryan Puglisi gave me a couple minutes of his time, and I got to know the young man a little bit, just a little bit, and kind of get an idea for his mentality. He's a guy that has all the right answers. He's a guy who, to an extent, uses coach speak when he's talking. He sounds like one of the coaches. He's trying to make sure he says the right thing. He's trying to make sure that he says the right thing for the Georgia football program. Gunnar Stockton's the opposite. Gunnar Stockton is quiet. Right, this is a good old country boy from Raven County. That's just who he is. He's driving the old pickup truck. He just doesn't have that much to say. So, kind of different players. Physically, they're different, right? Puglisi 6'3", bigger, longer arms. Gunnar Stockton, stockier. He's listed at 6'1". That's not true. All right, I'm 6'1", and I'm definitely at least an inch taller than Gunnar Stockton. So we're talking about a guy that's 5'11", 6 feet tall, built, thick, right? You see the quads, you see the arms, you see the way he's able to take that hit in Texas. And let's start the conversation from that point in the SEC Championship game. Gunnar Stockton, it's overtime. Georgia's down by a field goal. They can win with a touchdown. And around the 12-yard line, actually the 12-yard line, Gunnar Stockton takes a QB draw. He runs up. He gets to the 4-yard line, and Texas safety Andrew Makuba lights him up. Helmet goes flying. Gunnar Stockton is all tangled onto the ground. He gets up immediately, but they don't call targeting on the play. So Gunnar's got to be out for at least one play. Well, Carson Beck's already been ruled out, so everyone's thinking, hey, for this one play right here, or two plays, it may be Ryan Puglisi. If Gunnar's hurt or if he just can't go back in, it may be Ryan Puglisi that's going to go in there and run Georgia's offense with 4 yards to go on first down, right? So that's what the thought was. I asked Puglisi, what was going through your head in that moment? It might be your turn, right? Carson's done. Gunnar might be done. And he told me that he'd be ready for the moment if his number's called. He said, at first, I'm thinking, hopefully, Gunnar Stockton's okay. If my number is called, I'm going to go in there and be prepared and do whatever it takes to help this team win. So he gave me what I view as what a coach would think is the right answer, right? I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this team win. That's the mentality that Ryan Puglisi had heading into that, or during that moment when Gunnar's hurt, or not hurt. Kirby said that Gunnar could have went right back in there. Well, it ended up not being Puglisi's moment. Right, but for a split second, we thought the true freshman was probably going to be the guy that's going to go out there. You hear the Georgia crowd, you hear the murmurs, you hear the gasps. People are concerned, and there's going to be a true freshman going in there in overtime. Well, Carson Beck hobbles out there with his arm dangling to his side, and he ends up giving the game-winning handoff to Trevor Etienne. Georgia beats Texas 22-19 and takes home their third SEC championship trophy under Kirby Smart. So no, Puglisi's number was not called, but he felt that he was ready for that. And I think that if you ask most people, I'm not going to say everybody, but let's say 9 out of 10 people, 99 out of 100 people, they're going to probably tell you, I'd be ready for that moment. I think that they would probably say something similar to Ryan Puglisi. But it was the rest of the conversation, and it's kind of what we're seeing recently that tells me, okay, this kid's got confidence. This kid wants to play football, and I think this kid wants to be the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. What's the headline, right? He's making headlines. He said, I want to be so confident in the playbook, I could teach it. He said that to Aaron Murray. Dean, Matt, and myself, we talked about this the other day. That's a big statement. He wants to, apparently this guy's a film grinder. Apparently he's doing all of the little stuff that it takes to become better and to become a better football player and to help the Georgia Bulldogs win. Now, I'm not saying Gunnar Stockton doesn't do that, all right? I think he does. I think that they're different people. I'm not saying Gunnar Stockton's not the quarterback for Georgia because I think he certainly could end up being Georgia's quarterback here over this year, maybe beyond. But I do think that there's going to be at least a little bit of competition. And at the very minimum, they're going to look at Ryan Puglisi. It's not the first time that Ryan Puglisi has kind of taken the hearts of Georgia fans on social media. I'm sure that y'all remember Dylan Raiola, right? He was committed to Georgia. He was committed to Ohio State. Then he decommits. Then he commits to Georgia. His family moves to Buford. He becomes the QB1 for the Buford Wolves, one of the better football programs in the country on the high school level, certainly in the state of Georgia. And he's committed to Georgia throughout the season. We went out there and watched him a lot. We went out there and met with him. Last second, right, around signing day, he flips to Nebraska. There's a poem he puts on social media, a Christmas-themed poem about how he's burning Georgia for Nebraska and how he's going to live, his father's legacy and try to save Nebraska, basically. Ryan Puglisi starts posting, hey, man, I'm 100% committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, everyone immediately is like, okay, we're done with Dylan Raiola. Ryan Puglisi's our guy in this quarterback class. And Puglisi not only was saying that around that time, but he kept that throughout the entire recruitment. I'm committed to the Georgia Bulldogs, and people love that. I think that it may be difficult for him to overcome Gunnar in terms of the love for the team, the love the team has for him. All right? I think about the way that the stadium reacted when Gunnar Stockton went in there in the SEC Championship. I think about the way the team rallied behind him. I think about the way that they spoke about him in New Orleans. This team loves Gunnar Stockton. Kirby loves Gunnar Stockton. He was crying. He had to walk away from the sideline interview with ESPN reporter Holly Rowe after the SEC Championship and just talks about how much Gunnar's a winner. And he starts tearing up and he has to walk away. So I think from that standpoint, it will be difficult. Here's another quote. I'll round this out with a quote or two from Ryan Puglisi because I think this is going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see spring practice next week. This is something he said to me. He said the mentality is pretty much the same every game. You never know when your number is going to be called. That's why I think that Coach Smart does a great job of pushing every kid, no matter your role, to the best of his ability every single day of practice and putting kids in certain situations to be under pressure and be their best. If my number gets called eventually, I'll be ready because of what Coach Smart and his staff has done during practice every day. That's how he feels. His number might get called this coming season. It might get called this spring. I think at the very minimum, he'll probably get a little bit of QB1 reps. But I think that we need to be aware. It was a competition between Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason going into 2017, even if that wasn't public. It was a competition between Beck and Vandegrift heading into 23. Gunnar had a chance in that too. It's a competition every day at practice to be a starting player for Georgia, not just quarterback. So Georgia's in a situation where it very well could have a quarterback battle on its hands this offseason. Let me know what you think about it down below in the comments.